And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome to Dead Calm. So we're going to talk about Dead Calm. This is a brand new upgrade. It'll be in my next update video. Very, very glad to finally have this on Blu-ray. Watched it just a couple of hours ago. Had the DVD, now I've got it on Blu-ray. Dead Calm was released in the year 1989. This was Nicole Kidman's first movie. Now, she had made a local film in Australia, and she had starred in some episodes of a local TV series, but this was her first film, Dead Calm. It was released in 1989. It was directed by Phillip Noyce. It was written by Terry Hayes and Charles Williams, and it stars Sam Neill, Nicole Kidman, and Billy Zane. So, we are introduced at a train station. They're arriving, and it's obviously the Royal Navy or the Australian Navy, whatever the Australian Navy is called. We are introduced to John Ingram. He is a captain in the Navy. They're all showing up for leave, but his family, his wife and son, are a no-show. He waits for quite a while, and then he sees a couple of officials come towards him, where he then learns that his wife was in a horrible accident, a car wreck, an auto wreck. He goes to the hospital where his son is already dead. His son was about 3. And his wife is Nicole Kidman, whose name is Ray. So she's barely alive, but she lives. The baby is dead. You get to see then how it occurred. She was on there. They were on their way to pick him up, of course, when the baby dropped his teddy bear, and he knew how to unlock his car seat. So he unlocked the seat to go down into the floorboard. She freaked out and was like, get back in the seat. It was raining bad. She fucking hydroplaned, head-on collision. Baby went through the windshield. Very, very bad. That happened to me when I was a kid. I was a little baby. And my mom and dad, they both grabbed me at the same time, but he hit a car or something. I don't know what he hit. Probably the back end of a car. But there was no baby seats. And I went flying through the air, and they both caught me before I hit the windshield. So it's always been a scene that's made me go, that's what could have happened to me, right? So he's got a big yacht, and his decision was that they go out onto the quiet of the ocean while they both recovered from this horrible tragedy. So they're out there, and as they're trying to deal with this, they run across a big black schooner it looks derelict, and before they know it, they notice that someone is paddling towards them in a dinghy. He gets there claiming that the boat is disabled and sinking, and he's acting very terrified. He claims that he does, the captain is like, why would you be out here by yourself? So he claims that there were 5 other people with him, but that they're all dead. They all died 10 days ago on the same day. Well, John is really like, sup? Sup? And he's like, I always thought, what'd he say? He always thought that he hated salmon, and that he always thought that canned salmon was for cats, as an expression of how much he hated salmon. And that's when both Nicole, or Ray and John, both were like, did they eat canned salmon? And then he said, yeah. And they asked him, well, what were the symptoms? And he started telling them what happened. And he was like, there was the exact symptoms of botulism, which is a credible answer. If they ate canned salmon, they got botulism, they would have all died on the same day, and they would have died, in the way that he said. So it passed the smell test for the moment for John. So they try to make him feel better and put him in the bed, get some sleep. But John's like snoops through his bag where he's looking at pictures and the captain's log or the yacht log, and he begins to suspect that something is more about this story. So he goes on the dinghy and boards the other boat after he locks that guy in the bedroom. So he goes over there and he's looking through the boat, and he ends up finding the bodies, but they did not die of botulism. Okay, they were brutally murdered and dismembered. There was body parts everywhere. So he tries to run out, but that dude's already woken up and has managed to get out of the room, attacks Ray, who doesn't understand what the fuck is going on. He attacks her. We learned that the other boat was named the Orpheus. So he's trying to paddle back as fast as he can, but that guy knocks her out and takes off and leaves him stranded there with this derelict boat. So it doesn't take her very long to realize this dude is nuts. And I think if you watch the movie, you'll realize that he's probably paranoid schizophrenic, unmedicated. Because that's exactly the way he's acting. Extreme bipolar, paranoid schizophrenic. He's displaying all the signs of those two illnesses. So that's what I'm assuming that he was. So she ends up trying to deal with him. She accuses him of murdering the other crew. You can tell she suspects, paranoid schizophrenia, and she tries to deal with it while she makes what am I going to do? How am I going to get my husband? So now John, back at the other boat, he does manage to get the other boat running, and he goes after them. Ray manages to sneak to the radar station, and she can see the boat on radar, and they even make contact. And though he can hear her, she cannot hear him. So he's receiving, but's not transmitting. So he uses the squelch button. They figure out they can, communicate that way. And at first he's like, no, the boat's not sinking, and he's all right. And, she agrees to try to stop the boat somehow so that he can catch up. So now she must keep the status quo. She does manage to get the motor key out, but they play cat and mouse, her and Hugo. Yeah, that's what I call him, Hugo. It's Hugie something, but anyway. So they do manage to play cat and mouse, and she manages to fake him out, get on board, and throw it into the water. However, they have this dipshit little rat terrier dog. She always plays fetch with him, right? He goes out there and fetches the fucking key and brings it back to Hugh. It was at that moment that I said, see, people think I'm a bad person because I don't like dogs. I don't hate them. I don't want them harmed in any way most of the time. I just am not a dog person. I don't like dogs. And so when that damn rat terrier, especially after what it causes, he goes out there and he gets the damn thing, and she's like, oh no. And I'm like, that's what you get for having a fucking dog in the middle of the Atlantic, or whatever ocean's on. I forget. What ocean is around Australia? Is it the Southern Atlantic? Or is it something else? I feel a Google search coming because obviously my geography has got a hole in it. But whatever that sea is out there, they got a fucking rat terrier in it, and she just paid for that shit. So he brings the motor key back and gives it to Hugh. Now we see John is watching videos on the other boat of that crew, and it's given him a lot deeper insight into just how crazy this Hugh guy is. Right. And he does manage to get back in contact. She gets away from him again and manages to get back in contact with John, where he then tells her, because he's discovered the boat really is leaking. I mean, the whole bottom of that boat is like dry rot, so that thing was going to sink anyway. But so the boat really is sinking, and it will be sunk in 6 hours is the message that he gives her. So she's got 6 hours to get back to save him. So she's trying once again to be friendly to this guy. And she remembers that there's a big flare gun up on deck. So she's playing the role to try to keep him calm. And he even starts initiating sex. And she allows that. And then says she has to use the bathroom. So she tries to throw him off guard, right? What she really does is she runs up there and she gets the flare gun and she starts putting it together. But before she can get it loaded, that fucking dog starts barking and carrying on, alerting Hugh, who then runs up there. She's got to think real fast. So she grabs the pack of cigarettes and comes down the stairs and is like, for later. Okay. So she played it off. Then she actually has to have sex with him. I mean, they actually, to stay alive. And I was like, that dog is a problem. This dog, I mean, she could have done something. She could have killed him with the flare gun or something. So not only did this dog screw up the first plan, but the dog has now caused her to have sex with this psycho. Real, legit sex, all the way. I would be beside myself. I tell you what, I'd drop kick that rat terrier to the left. You know what I'm saying? I don't like dogs anyway. So that dog really pissed me off. Because the dog almost got her caught, and I'm telling what that dude would have done. So she has to, now that they've had sex, she has to come up with some other plan. She comes up with a good idea. And that is, she had all these nerve pills, because of what had happened with the baby. So she had all these nerve pills, and she's like, I bet I can drug him, like make us some lemonade. So she did. She made lemonade. She filled it full one. She pretended to drink it. She did that Jodie Foster switcheroo, and Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. She was acting like she was drinking it so that it would put him at ease, and he took that glass and he drank it all. So he's now full of whatever the hell kind of sedative she had that bottle of. She manages, he's calmed down a lot, right, because he thinks she's on her side and everything's in his crazy little world is okay. She manages to get back to the gun and gets it loaded. They end up having a big boss fight number 1 over it. And he starts succumbing to the drug effects. He still beats the hell out of her, though, and she's still doing it. Now, she manages to get into the bedroom and lock herself in. And he's banging on the door, and he almost gets in. And a spear gun fell down. So she shot at him through the door. And then she reloads it, and she's waiting again. And the doorknob turns, And the door starts to open, and she's shot again, and you heard that little dog go, meow. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm not going to say anything about the dead dog. Karma. Excuse me. But the dog is dead. She walks out the door, and he attacks. Scares the shit out of you, actually, because he's hiding in a closet or something. So he comes out, and there's a bunch more boss fight. Succumbing to the drug. Killed the dog through the door, unfortunately. I didn't say kill it. I just said throw it out there. It could swim back to shore. But he finally passes out while strangling her, so he nearly kills her. She hogties and locks him in the room. The boat's out of petrol, so she has to not only raise the sails. This is a big old yacht, too. So not only does she have to raise the sails, but she has to steer at the same time, trying to get back, and the sun's going down. Now, John had managed to get off the boat by swimming through the bottom because the boat had, in the squall, the boat had, the mast had fell through and had locked him in the hold. So he had to kick holes in the bottom of the boat to swim out. So he managed to get out the boat, and she's on the way. Right, okay. So she's on the way back to the thing. He manages to break the door again. John, after he got out of that other boat, he lights that boat on fire as a signal fire, and she does see it, so she's able to get a bearing and turn the correct way to get to him. Meanwhile, though, that Hugh guy has managed to break out, and we see another huge boss fight between them. Ray ends up shooting him in the shoulder with the spear, but then she can't finish him off, which she should have done. So she KO'd him, and she put him out on an inflatable dinghy and let it trail behind the boat, which I would have just cut him loose personally. But she let him trail behind the boat, and then she went on, and she did manage to find John on this makeshift raft after the boat had sunk and doused itself out. So she rescues him, and then morning comes, and they go back and find the dinghy, and he's not there. This Hugh guy isn't there. So they assume that he fell off or something, because they sank that dinghy with box flares. And the dinghy sank, and he wasn't there, so they assumed everything was all right. So she goes swimming, and John washes her hair, because I don't know. I live on the beach, and I can assure you, whether you're a boy or a girl, if you go swimming in the beach, you have to wash your hair. Otherwise, the salt water will eat it up like acid. Just letting you know in case you go to the beach. But so he's washing her hair after she went swimming in the ocean, and then he goes back into the kid to get more water and to get something to eat, and then all of a sudden we see bloody hands start washing her hair, and you think it's you know who it is, right? And so she talks to him for a minute, and then she realizes when she reaches back and grabs his hand, she realizes that isn't John, and she turns around, and he starts strangling her to death. And you're like, damn, that dude is like a tick, right? He just will not get off. So John comes up out of the lower deck, sees her being attacked, and grabs one of those box flares. Box flares, it looks like a big cylinder, and if you pull the end, it shoots out. So he pulls the end, and he shoots him right in the mouth, and it blows the back of his head off. and he falls off the boat, and I'm like, is he gone now for real? Because that dude, you know what they say about crazy people, man? It takes a whole lot more to kill a crazy motherfucker than it does to kill a normal person. It's almost like they don't know they're dead. It's like, you were shot 12 times, dude. You should have died. And he's like, well, he's hopped up on PCP, so he doesn't realize that he's dead. And he just keeps coming after you. I think that's the way they put it. That's the way I've heard some cops talk about shit like that. So they kill him, and he falls off the boat with his head on fire. And it's finally over, and the movie ends. Now, I will say that this is a 9 out of 10 to me. It's absolutely fantastic movie. It's a really good horror thriller, psycho thriller. Billy Zane played a crazy person really well. And I'll be honest, man, Nicole Kidman, this is what I think that everybody, when they saw this movie, they were all just like, who the fuck is that? I mean, because you can really see in this movie why she became what she became, because it's evident right from the beginning. She is the hero of the movie. She rescues her husband. She's tough. Her acting is flawless. She barely had an accent, so she was already like getting that international accent. She definitely didn't have a noticeable regional accent for Australia. So she'd obviously practiced that a bit. And there was no need, since this was an Australian, it was set in Australia, so why did it matter? But still. So you could tell from her acting what she was going to be. This movie was a big splash for her, no pun intended. And I think it showed the world exactly what this new actress was about and had within her. And I think that's why she became such a fantastic star like she did, is because she is a true gifted actor. And it shows even in this first movie. You find absolutely nothing to complain about her performance in this movie, or Sam Neill, or Billy Zane. All three of them are fantastic. And yes, 9 out of 10. 1989's Dead Calm. If you haven't seen it, you really should. Nicole Kidman, Billy Zane, Sam Neill. Have you seen this movie? Tell me what you think about it. If you haven't, you should really try to find it, because it is worth it. If you're a Sam Neill fan, Billy Zane fan, or a Nicole Kidman fan, you must have this movie in your collection. It is a great psycho horror, psycho thriller type movie. And yeah, that does it for Dead Calm. And I will see you in the next thing I do. Always remember and never forget, you're a very, very special person. And I will be back in the future with some more goodies. I just sit around my collection and I just pick stuff out that I want to talk about. And that's the way we do things. That's the way it rolls here on my channel. Love you, miss you, bye. See you later. Let me know what you think about this movie, if you want to, or whatever. Bye.